Hello everyone, today we're learning Mציעא Daf Zayin. We're going to start from the Mishnah on Daf Amud Beis. Says the Mishnah, Motza b'chanus, if you found money or an item in the shop, Aryeh l'shlo, you could keep it. Bein ha'tevel u'lechen boni, if you found it in the shop between the counter and the shopkeeper, shelchen boni belongs to the shopkeeper. Lifnei shulchoni, in front of a money changer, Aryeh l'shlo belongs to you because if already the money fell from someone who came to change the money. Bein ha'kiseh l'shulchoni, between the table where the counter and the money changer, Aryeh l'shulchoni belongs to the money changer. Alokech peres mechavero, is someone who buys fruit from his friend, or his friend gave him a basket of fruit as a present to Motzah in Mois, and he found money inside. Aryeh l'shlo belongs to him. If they were in a bundle and they have a siman, you have to be Meishev Aveda. Says the Gemara, in the case of the money changer, we spoke about between the counter and the money changer, and between the counter towards the entrance of the shop. What happens if you found the money on the counter? So Rabbi Loza says, even if they on the counter, the din is Aryeh l'shlo, you could keep them. Now, and we learned in our Mishnah, Lifnei shulchoni Aryeh l'shlo. If it's in front of the shulchoni, it's yours. Is mashma, if you found it on the table, on the counter, the shulchoni belongs to the shulchoni, not yours. So it's a kasha with Rabbi Loza. So the Gemara, let's look at the sefer of our Mishnah. Bein ha'kiseh l'shulchoni, between the table and the money changer shulchoni, al gabi shulchon sheloi. You could see a raya the opposite. You can't bring a raya from the Mishnah because there's a duke both ways. Rabbi Loza hominole, how does Rabbi Loza know that if you find it on the counter, it belongs to you? Omarova masisin kashisei, he had a shvarkite in the Mishnah. My Aryeh the Tony bein ha'kiseh l'shulchoni. What's the reason that it says between the table, the counter, and the money changer shel shulchoni lisnei? It should say ala shulchon. It should say if you found it on the table, it's already shel shulchoni, and obviously what's behind it towards him is even more his. Elomai must be that on the table belongs to the one who found it. Inami, another diuk, Motzah b'shulchonos, it should say, if you found in the shulchonos, kedektoni reisha, Motzah b'chanus sheloi, you found in the shop, did it say, did it change a loshen and say, lifnei shulchoni? Why did they not say Motzah b'shulchonos? Ela shma mino, afilu menochim al gabi shulchon, even if they're on the table, Aryeh l'sheloi, it belongs to you because we assume they fell from one of the people who came to change money. This is only said when you bought fruit from your friend, or you got a present from your friend's fruit and he found money that it belongs to you. You're buying it from someone who bought this wheat from many people, so therefore you don't know who the money belongs to. If you're buying it from a private seller, because the money belongs to the person who sold it to you, because he never bought it from many people that you could say that the money came from someone else. And also in front of Nachman they learned the Brisa. This is only said when you're buying it from someone who buys it from many people. The same din. Rav Nachman asked the Tana who learned this in front of him, very good, you bought it from a private person who got the wheat from his field, and we could assume from him, but was he the only one who threshed this wheat? When they threshed this wheat and they separated the peel from the actual wheat, there was workers, so it could be fell from one of the workers. So why did I give it back to Balabais? So you tell him, okay, I'll have to rob. I won't be gurus this price. It's not good price. No, you don't need to delete it. When the Brisa says that if it's me from a balabais, you have to give it back to balabais, it's somehow when the whole process was done all by him, all by his slaves who are not Jewish, and therefore anything that they own, he owns. So therefore, even if a slave lost it, it belongs to the owner. And therefore, if a shore comes from the owner because there was no one else involved in the process, and therefore you have to give back the money to that owner. Says the Mishnah, Af hasimla oisa b'chlal kol elu. The simla was included in all the different types of metzias, and the Gemara is going to explain exactly what it means, because it said in the pasuk kol aveda sachicha, and then it says specifically simla. Lama yotzos, why did they come out to come and tell you simla separately? Why are they not just included in kol aveda sachicha? Laki shola, it's coming to teach you, lo malachot, to tell you ma simla miyuchedes, like a simla, a dress is special. Sheyesh lo simonim veyesh lo tovim. It has normally a way to identify it. It has a simin, and also it has someone who claims it, someone who owns it. Af kol davar sheyesh bo simonim. Anything that has a simin, you need to give back. Veyesh lo tovim, and the guy didn't give up on it. He still wants it back. He never gave up on it. He wasn't miyayish. Chayav la'achar is only in that condition that also has simonim, and also there was no yush. You have to give it back. What does it mean bichlal kol elu? As we already explained, but the Gemara is asking it. Omar Rava bichlal kol aveda sichochicho. It says in the pasuk all any aveda vochicho. So why does the Torah need to tell me simla by itself? Omar Rava lomali the kosav archmanu shor chamor se the simla. Why, except of simla, there's other specific things in the pasuk of aveda. It says a shor, an ox, a donkey, a sheep, and a cloak. Why do you need all these separate things? Tricky, you need it. If we would say only simla hava mina hanimile beidim de gufa v'simonim de gufa, only if the person has simonim on the actual simla or eidim on the actual simla, then you have to give it back. Aval chamor beidim de ukaf, if someone lost a donkey and he has eidim that the ukaf, that's the ukaf, that's mine, or simonim de ukaf, or simonim that the ukaf is his. He says, oh, look, underneath the ukaf it says this and this and this. But he doesn't have any simonim or eidim on the actual donkey. Maybe you won't give him back the donkey. You say maybe only the ukaf belongs to him. That's why the Torah also added the word chamor, donkey, to tell you that even if he only recognizes the ukaf and there's no simonim on the chamor itself, once we assume that the ukaf says, we also can give him back the donkey. Okay, so now we know why we need simla, we know chamor. Shor said the kosav archmanu lomali. Why do we need those two? Shor dafilu legizas novoi. That even though they have a little bit of hair on the tail, that you have to take care of it. Tosfos explains that even though it's less than shor prut, you have to cut it off when it's time to do it and give it back at the end. The seh and what said coming to tell you legizoisov, to tell you that you need to give back the shearing of the sheep. Ask the Gemara a question on that. If we know already this tiny little bit that sheep, a cow has on the tail, you have to give it back. Obviously, the wool, that's a lot of wool from a sheep, you need to give back. So why did the Torah need to write seh? Elo Marova says Rava chamor dibur. In the parasha of Bari, we learned this in Bava Kama that says chamor, and Rabbanon learned that means chamor veloy kelim. The bur is potter for hezek of kelim. But Rabbi Yehuda doesn't learn that drasha. So chamor in the parasha of Bari, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't learn the drasha of chamor veloy kelim. They said Aveda, and the word say in the parasha of Aveda ledivra kol, not only lefi Rabbi Yehuda, lefi everyone. Kashya, we don't know why it's coming to tell us. Said the Gemara ve'emel glolim udasa. Maybe says coming to tell you that you need to give back the manure that comes out of the sheep. You have to collect it, and when you find the owner of the sheep, you have to give it back. So the Gemara can't be glolim mafkur mafkulu. No one's makbid on the glolim of a sheep to want it back, and therefore he's mafkur it, and therefore it can't be the Torah is telling us that you need to give it back. Says the Gemara v'dilmele simonim udasa. Maybe he says coming to tell you simonim that you need to give back aveda b'simonim. The boilon that we have a shaila later on simonim deraisa derabanan. Is a din that you give back aveda with a simin? Is that din me'atorah? It's a din derabanan or mechadish. So l'chora kotzar rachmana says. So let's learn. The Torah wrote say that filu b'simonim adrinon b'simonim deraisa. The Torah is coming to tell you from the word say to tell you that you give back aveda with simonim, and simonim is deraisa. So l'chora, why do we say we don't know what you do with say? L'chora, we have something to learn from it. So the Gemara, no. Amri midik toni lo toni lesimonim gabe simla. Since in the Mishnah it says by simla, it says, why did it say simla to tell you about simonim? Diktoni ma simla miuchedes sheyesh bo simonim v'yesh lo tovim chayav la'achriz. Af kol dover sheyesh bo simonim v'yesh lo tovim chayav la'achriz. Shma mino deseh lav lesimonim udosa. Since the Mishnah tells us that from simla we learn simonim, so it can't be that we're learning seh for simonim, because the Mishnah says that simla is for simonim. So let's learn from the Mishnah that simonim is d'oraisa, because it says from simla we learn simonim. The Gemara is going to say a teretz on that later on when we're going into the sugya if simonim is d'oraisa or not. But what the Gemara means to say over here, that for sure, if you learn simonim d'oraisa from simla, is not from seh, because in the Mishnah it says simonim by simla. So therefore we don't know what to do from the word seh in the Torah. Tonu Rabbanon, Asher Toivat. It says in the pasuk Asher Toivat Prat LaAveda Shein Bo Shavar Pruta, that there needs to be a proper Aveda, unless when Shavar Pruta is not called Aveda, you learn it from Toivat. Rabbi Yehuda Oimo Motzoso. It says in the pasuk, and he found it Prat LaAveda Shein Bo Shavar Pruta, because if there's no Shavar Pruta, it's not called a finding. And if you find something that's worth 3/4 of a Pruta, you could keep it. So the Gemara might be now, what's the difference between if you learn it from Asher Toivad or you learn it from Motzosa? Is there any difference? Abaye mashmoros dorshe ike b'nayim. Mar nafkele ma'asher toivad, mar nafkele mi'motzosa. Abaye said there's no real difference halacha lemaisa between these two pshatim. The only shaila is, where do you learn it from? The lesson Shal Pruta you potter, is it from here or from here? But it's not coming to tell you any difference in halacha lemaisa between these two shittis. Says the Gemara, leman de nafkele ma'asher toivad, lefi the shitta who you learn it from. The pasuk Asher Toivad Ayi Motzosa Mai Ovidlei. What do you need the word Motzosa to tell you? Says the Gemara, there is a in the pasuk of Aveda it says Ochicha, and we darshim that you only have to give back Aveda to a fellow Jewish friend, but to a goy you don't have to give back the Aveda. And the shaila is, does that mean only if you found it that you don't have to pick it up if it belongs to a goy? Or does it mean even if you pick it up, you don't have to give it back? So Rav Noi says, since it says Motzosa, and it means that it came already to your hand, and it says Ochicha, so it means even if it came to your hand, you don't have to give it back to a goy. So that's what you learn from Motzosa, lefi the Shitta who learns the Shavar Pruta from Asher Toivat. Ask the Gemara, leman de nafkele Motzosa, the one who learned the lesson Shavar Pruta from Motzosa, Asher Toivat, Mai Ovidlei. What is he going to darshan from Asher Toivat? So the Gemara, mi boy lelek Rabbi Yochanan. Doma Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Yochanan says the name of the Heilige Tana, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Minayin la'aveda sheshot fano shemuteres. How do you know that if Aveda was swept away by river, even though there has a siman, you could keep it? Shenemar kein ta'aseh lechol Aveda sochicha. Asher toivad umenu mutzoso. Mi shavudo imenu. Since it says in the Torah Asher Toivad that it's lost, and it's mashma, it's lost only from him, so that's a Aveda they have to give Hashava. But if it's lost from anyone, like when the river took it, therefore in such a case you don't need to give it back, and that's what you learn from Asher Toivad. So we had two shittas where you know less than Shavar Pruta. One says from Asher Toivad and one says from Motzosa. The one who says from Asher Toivad Motzosa, you need it for the dinner of Noi. The one who learns from Motzosa, you need Asher Toivad for the dinner of Rabbi Yochanan. So now the Gemara wants to know each one. How is he going to know the dinner of Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Noi, each one on his shitta? So the Gemara, Rav Noi Minole, the one who learns Motzosa to tell you that he needs Shavar Pruta. So how do you know the Motzosa that even if he came into your hand, you're potter to give it back to a goy? So the Gemara, Nafkele mive Motzosa, from the extra vav, it tells me the din of Rav Noi. So we learn two things from Motzosa. One, that Shavar Pruta, and one, that the dinner of Noi. V'idach, and the other shitta who learns that you learn Asher Toivad, you learn it for less than Shavar Pruta that you potter from Avshava. How does he know the din if the river overflew and took the item, they don't have to give it back? So the Gemara, Nafkele mimenu. He learns it because it says Asher Toivad mimenu, from him it's lost, from the word mimenu, but not from when it's lost from everyone. In that case, you don't need to give it back. The other one, why can't he learn it from Mimenu? So the Gemara, Mimenu loy mashmele, he doesn't think that you could darshan from the word by itself. Only Asher Toivad Mimenu together you could learn the din of Rabbi Yochanan. and therefore he called in from Mimenu, and therefore Asher Toivad he uses for Rabbi Yochanan, and he learns the din of Shava Pruta from Umotzosa. Okay, for this now we went through the whole Shakra Vitari, each on what they do with the psukim. Now we're coming to Rav Shita, who holds that there is an nafkamina if you learn it from Asher Toivad, that less than Shava Pruta Yipota, or if you learn that din from Umotzosa. Rav Amar Pruta She'uzla Ike Binayu. In a case where you found Aveda, that when it was lost it was worth a Pruta, and now it's worth less than a Pruta. Manda Amar Asher Toivad Lefi the Shita that you learn it, it needs to be Shava Pruta when it got lost. Ika. When it got lost it was Shava Pruta, and therefore even though now it's less than Shava Pruta, you need to give it back. Lefi the Shita that it depends on when you find it. So now when I found it, it's worth less than Shava Pruta. I don't need to give it back. Ask the Gemara, at the end of the day, even if you learn it from Asher Toivad and B'shas Aveda Shava Pruta, it also says a Motzasa. You found that Aveda that's worth a Pruta, and now it's not worth a Pruta, so you don't need to give it back. So the Gemara, a different case, opposite case, Pruta She'ukra Ike B'nayu. When the person lost it, it was worth less than a Pruta, and then it went up in value, and it's worth a Pruta. Mando Oma Motzasa Ika, when you found it, it's worth a Pruta, you need to give it back. Mando Oma Asher Toivad Leka. The opposite case, and Lefi Mando Oma, when you learn Shava Pruta from Asher Toivad, since when he lost it, it wasn't Shava Pruta, even though that now it's Shava Pruta, you don't need to give it back. Ask the Gemara, Lemando Oma Motzasa, Hoboinon Asher Toivad Veleka. Even if you learn it from Motzasa, but this does say Asher Toivad, and B'shas Avei, there wasn't Shava Pruta, so you shouldn't have to give it back. Lefi all shittis. So what's enough Gemina? So the Gemara, Elo, and we're going to be gurus like the Hagoy Sabach, Elo Pruta She'uzla V'chazur V'ukra Ika B'nayu. The person lost the Pruta, something worth a Pruta, and then it went down in value, and it was worth less than a Shava Pruta, and then it went back up in value, and it's worth a Shava Pruta now, and now the guy found it. So Mando Masher Toivad Ika. When he lost it, it was worth a Pruta, and also when he found it, it was worth a Pruta, and therefore you have to give it back. Ulimando Oma Motzasa, the one who says that you learned the din of Shava Pruta from Motzasa, being in this Bishur Mציעא Mishas Aveda V'Achar Mציעא. We learn from Motzasa that the whole way through, from the Aveda until the Mציעא, has to be Shava Pruta, and if at one point went down less than a Shava Pruta, the din is you don't need to give it back. And that's an nafkamina between the shittas, Lefi Rava, if you learn it from Asher Toivad or if you learn it from Motzasa. Now we're coming to a sugya, is Simonim deraisa, Simonim not deraisa? Meaning, for sure you give back Aveda. It says clear psukim in the Torah that you give back Aveda if someone lost it, and for sure you have to give it back if he has Eidim that belong to him. The shaila is, if he only has Simonim, and the shaila is only if Simonim muvokim, if it's a very, very clear simin, for sure it's midiraisa, you have to give it back. The shaila here is a simin that's not muvok, that's not very clear simin, midiraisa you have to give it back, or it's a din dirabonon that they were mataken that you have to give it back. So I think Mori Boilu, we have a shaila, Simonim diraisa, dirabonon, either a din from the Torah or a bonon mataken it. So the Gemara, my nafkamina, what's the difference? What's the difference? La dur get isha b'simonim. Do you give back a get of a woman that was lost b'simonim? Why the toilet on this? And if from the Torah you could give back the simon sheini muvok, and the Torah says a chiddush you could trust it. So even when it comes to surim, like a get that the woman should be mutter to marry someone else, you give it back. If you say it's a takana d'Rabbanon, ki avad Rabban takanta b'mamoina, when did Rabbanon do the takana only by mominis? Ava b'isur lo avad Rabban takanta, but by isurim, when it comes to Eishes Ish, Rabbanon never made such a takana that we could trust simonim, and therefore by a get you won't trust simonim, only eidim or simon muvak. So now the Gemara is going to try to bring a bunch of rayas to see about this shaila, is it simonim deraisa or not? Toshmaaf asim lo oitzo bichlal kol elu au mishnah. Velamo yotzos. Why did it come out specifically to tell you simlo? La'aki shelo to tell you v'lo ima lechoma simlo miuchedes sheyesh lo simonim v'yesh lo tovim chayav la'achriz af kol dover sheyesh lo simonim v'yesh lo tovim chayav la'achriz. And the Mishnah it says, why does it say simlo? To tell you that anything that has simonim or and tovim and the person wasn't miyash, you have to give it back. So it says the Chorah clearly in the Mishnah that from simlo we learn the din of simonim. So we could see simonim's deraisa. So the Gemara no. Tana tovim mitzrichilei. Simonim kedin aspa. Really, the ikka din that we learn for simla, that you need that the person wasn't miyash, that he's toveh. But the din of Simonim, that's by the way the Mishnah wrote it, but really Simonim is not learned from Simna, it's only a din derabanan. So we don't have no raya from the Mishnah. Toshma chamor b'simoni ukov, it says that you give back a chamor with the Simonim of the ukov. Olechara, you could see that Simonim is deraisa. So the Gemara, Ema be'ede ukov. It doesn't mean Simonim of ukov. When we learned that from the din of chamor, we learned that you can give it back even if there's no simin on the chamor. It doesn't mean that you give it back of the simonim of the ukov. Edim on the ukov, that's good enough to also give back the donkey. We don't have a raya that's simonim of the raisa. Toshma, bring you another raya. It said in the pasuk that if you find something, you should keep it until someone looks for it. Would you ever think that you give it back before he asks for it? Obviously, he needs to ask for it. Elo, what does the Torah mean? Check if the guy is lying or not lying. Maybe he just wants to steal this item that never belonged to him. My lab simonim. How do you check a person? Isn't it with simonim you check that he knows, he recognizes the item? So we could see the simonim's deraisa because you're learning this from a pasuk. So the Gemara loy be'edim, the way you check if it's a rama or not, he has to bring edim. But simonim, it could be muderaisa, don't work. Only midirabonon. Toshma, bring your raya. It says about if you come to bring an edus about a certain person died, to be mad to his wife, that she could get married to someone else. So it says you can't be made ela protuf upon him, only the person who saw the person dead, the edim saw the face, imachoisim together with that nose. Afal pishiyes simonim begufoi ubekelov, even though there is simonim, you can recognize something about his body and his kalim. The things he was wearing, the clothes he was wearing. Shma mino simonim lav deraisa, because if simonim were deraisa, it would be good enough simonim on the body or what jumper he was wearing that I recognize it belongs to so and so. Elamai simonim's lav deraisa. So the Gemara, no. Amri gufoi, the simonim of gufoi are not proper good simonim. It's talking about what he's saying, the Aryeh, that he was a tall man, the gut, he was a small man, and that's not simon because there's lots of tall and small people. Kalov, the Kalov, you know why it's not simonim that you recognize the person's jumper? The cheshina l'sheila, maybe the person who owns this jumper lent it to someone else, and he's not a dead person; it's someone else who's wearing this jumper, and therefore it's not good simin. But really, it could be simonim or deraisa. Said the Gemara, if you have to be choishes, maybe someone borrowed something, and we said if someone brings edim about the ukuf, about the saddle of the donkey, you give him back the donkey itself. Maybe he lent someone the saddle and the donkey belongs to someone else. Why will you give him the donkey itself if we choishes for sheila? Said the Gemara, Amri ukuf loisha uli inchi ukfa mishum demaskev leilechamra. A saddle is something that people don't lend out because it hurts the donkey. Needs to be custom made for each donkey, and therefore if I give my saddle to someone else to use for his donkey, it's going to cause pain to the donkey, and therefore if someone knows whose saddle, you recognize the saddle, that's good enough raya on the donkey itself. Ibo is saying another teretz about the simonim, about the thing that we said about the clothes, that it's not good simin for Eishes Ish. It's talking about Kelo b'chiyur v'sumka. It's talking about where someone's made about, he was wearing a white or red jumper, and therefore that's not good enough simin, because lots of people have white or red jumpers, and therefore that's not good simin. If it would be a proper simin on the kelim, it could be, we would say simonim's deraisa, and you could be mad to this wife of this dead person to get married. Said the Gemara, the Tanya, we learned in the Brayso Motza kosher by kiss. If you found a get tied to a wallet, or it's a different type of wallet, to tabas or to a ring, between his kelim, afilu is man meruba, even after a long time he was lost. In such a case, kosher. The get is kosher. If we are choishish, that maybe someone lent someone something, kimotze kosher kiss, am I kosher neches l'sheila? When you found it tied to a wallet, the handbag, why are you choishish? Why do we say, it's the same, it's this person's wallet, and therefore the get belongs to him? Let's be choishish. Maybe he lent out the wallet to someone else, and this get belongs to someone else. So the Gemara, Amri, Kis, Varaniki, Vitabas, Mishali Inchi. These items people don't lend out. Why not? Kis, Varaniki, Mishum Dim Samni. giving your wallet or your purse, it's considered like a bad mazel to do it. The tabas mishum de mizayef, and a ring, because a person normally would have his signature on the ring, and with that he would sign. And if I give out my ring to someone else, he might false some documents as if I wrote them, and therefore people don't lend that out, and therefore we're not choishish l'sheila. So until so far we didn't have a raya, is simonim deraisa or simonim derabanan. Said the Gemara, lema ketanoi. Let's say the chara this shaila is it deraisa derabanan is a machlokes tanoim, because we learned in the brayso ein meidim ala shuma. A wart, you saw a dead person and you recognize a wart, that you know a person who had such a wart, so you want to come to bed and say, I saw the person dead. How do I know it was this person? Because I saw this wart. But it says the brayso you can't do that. He holds, Elazar ben Ma'avoy holds that you could be made and it's good enough edus and he could marry off his wife. What's a machloikes? Tanekama sova simon derabanan, and therefore we can't trust such a simin of a wart. Elazar ben Ma'avoy sova simon deraisa, and therefore a simin of a wart is a good enough simin and he could marry off his wife with the simin of the wart. Said the Gemara, Omarova, no. The kul alma simonim deraisa. We could say everyone holds simonim or deraisa. So the chur, what's the machlokes over here between these two tanoim? The shaila is over here, does a wart, someone who was born in the same mazel as you, does he also have the same wart or not? Like Reuven has a wart, very likely that Shimon, who was born in the same mazel like Reuven, also has a wart. And therefore, if you saw this wart and you recognize it's Reuven's, it might be really Shimon who's dead, not Reuven. And therefore, it's not good raya. It's not common that two people have the same wart. And therefore, if you recognize a wart, you can be made that he's dead and he could marry off his wife. Iboy say another way of understanding the machloikes, the kula alma shuma einu mitzuyim miguloi. Everyone hold that shuma is not common in someone in the same mazel. The shaila is, does a wart change its way that it looks after the person dies? Tanekama hold that it changes and therefore it's not good edus. It doesn't change and therefore if you recognize a wart, it's him and you can marry off his wife. Iboy say another way of understanding the machloikes, it's nothing to do with simonim deraisa or not. The kula alma shuma eina asul ishtanas lachamisa. Everyone hold the wart doesn't change after death. The simonim derabanan, and everyone holds simonim derabanan or not deraisa. What's a machloikes? B'shuma simon muvok kumifligi. Is a wart considered a simon muvok? And we said at the beginning of the sugya that everyone agree with a simon that's very, very clear and exact, that for sure simonim deraisa. Our whole sugya over here is by simon she'eina muvok. And therefore, Masov Atanekama holds Shuma Simon Muvoku. Sorry, Rabbi Elazar ben Ma'avoy holds Simon Shuma Simon Muvoku, and therefore you could be made. Masov Atanekama holds Shuma Lav Simon Muvoku it's not considered a Simon Muvok, and therefore it's only Midarabanan who works. And Midarabanan, they were not taken by Yisurim to marry off a woman al pi Simon she'eina Muvok. Said the Gemara weiter. Omarova intim Telema Simonim Lav Deraisa. We have a shaila and we don't know the din if simonim are deraisa or not. Lefi the tzad that simonim are not deraisa, echim adrina avodah b'simonim. What's the chat? Why were Rabbanon mitaken that you should give back avodah with a simon? If the Torah only says you should give it back with a simon muvok or with edim, what made Rabbanon mitaken this extra takana? So the Gemara says Rava the nichele lemoitza aveda the nahad b'simonim ke'echdechi of the leledidei nami nahadrule b'simonim. Because when a person who found this Aveda is happy to give it back to Simonim, because he thinks to himself, if I